Mafia: The Old Country is a beautiful game that controls well and has a captivating story filled with interesting characters, all set in early 1900s Sicily. While its predecessors were labeled as GTA clones, Mafia: The Old Country has more in common with the story-focused linear Uncharted series than the open-world style of old. While that all might sound great, Mafia: The Old Country shares a lot in common with the mafioso lifestyle which it portrays. Things seem great at first glance, but upon further inspection, reality doesn't quite live up to first impressions. Does Mafia: The Old Country live up to the pre-release hype? Does the game suffer from ditching the open world format? At $50 US, is Mafia: The Old Country a good value? Does Isabella's butt ever quit? Stay tuned for this short Mafia: The Old Country PC review where I'll discuss what really shined and the things that made me wish I was sleeping with the fishes. This is GreyDayGames. If you enjoyed this or any of the recent reviews on this channel, hit that like and subscribe button. It helps out the channel, and if you stick around until the end, you'll see how I'll repay your kindness. Getting started with this Mafia: The Old Country PC review, we begin where we always do, the presentation. Another new game in 2025 to utilize Epic's Unreal Engine 5, Mafia: The Old Country is an outstanding looking game. From beautifully lit environments that provide stunning clarity to even distant structures, to incredibly detailed characters with believably animated gestures and facial expressions, there's a lot good going on in the visual presentation of Mafia: The Old Country. Minor details really make each environment seem lifelike and livable, to the point where your brain accepts what you're shown as believably real. That is until the often occurring texture glitches come in to ruin the immersion. Completing the game on a 5090 equipped PC updated with the latest NVIDIA drivers that specifically mention Mafia: The Old Country, I found these unfortunate visual blunders throughout my playthrough. The sound effects in Mafia: The Old Country are really well done and add a lot to the previously mentioned immersion. Whether it's the sound of surrounding bugs, the gentle breeze, or the bubbling of a small stream, the environments are brought to life by a convincing combination of great sounding effects. When driving, you actually hear the different components of the vehicle jostle and clank and creak. The sounds of gunshots and explosions, while good, aren't groundbreaking, but they fit the feel of this old-school mobster movie video game. When it comes to the music in Mafia: The Old Country, you will not hear anything particularly amazing, but it is by no means bad. Old-world Italian tunes permeate various locations, though not as often as you would think, while thrilling and suspenseful tracks play during combat. In hindsight, I do think that had the game featured more music that better reflected the time and place in which I was playing, it would have greatly added to the presentation of the music in the new Mafia game. For better or worse, Mafia: The Old Country is a very linear experience that takes you from one main story quest directly to the next. This heavy-handed push forward in the story definitely lends to the game feeling more similar to an interactive movie than a proper new video game release in 2025. On these main story missions, players control Enzo as he drives, sneaks, shoots, stabs, and loots, all in the name of his boss, Don Torese. For the most part, the controls in Mafia: The Old Country are tight and responsive. Even the old-school car driving wasn't as bad as it tends to be in these period piece games, with one exception which we'll talk about later. Mafia: The Old Country's story is its bright point. It's a relatively simple story of a child forced into labor who is rescued by a certain Sicilian familial organization that loves to provide protection to their community, or a mafia family for those of you who like to be jerks about it. As Enzo, we raise through the ranks to gain favor with the big boss himself, Don Torese. Of course, we get a little cliche Romeo and Juliet star-crossed lovers with Enzo falling for none other than Isabella Torese, the Mafia Don's daughter. I mean, I get it, but my guy, is that ass really worth? Yeah, okay, you do you, Enzo. While the story was a little cliche and predictable, especially for those who've enjoyed a good mobster movie or two, it does everything right to appease those of us who enjoy the genre with awesome characters that are very well voice acted. The voice acting in Mafia: The Old Country is great. Characters are believable and the acting and dialogue writing is done well enough to even keep cutscene skippers interested. Enzo is a likable character who is a loyal and genuine person who happens to have a sense of morality deep down. Each mob boss is portrayed by convincing actors that don't stink of phony accents, but do emit an aura of danger. These main characters are bolstered by the surprisingly well done animations of secondary NPCs. You just knew how scary Don Torese was before you even knew who he was. The reactions of no-name NPCs said it all. So far, we've mostly covered things that made Mafia: The Old Country a great game. Now, it's time to get to the part that I'm good at: the complaints. I completed Mafia: The Old Country in 15 hours. For $50, 15 hours of gameplay starts to push the boundaries of what I consider to be a good value. Another side effect of the extremely linear and short game is that upon completion, I actually wish that there were more things I could have done along the way to Enzo becoming a prominent member of the Torese crime family. Instead, when the credits rolled, I felt emotionally affected, but nowhere near as much as I could have been had I been allowed to grow more attached to the game's many likable characters. Those visual glitches were a real killjoy. Right when I'd start thinking to myself or muttering in my stream about how beautiful the game was, in came the crazy flickering. If it were minor and infrequent, I probably wouldn't even note it in this review, but alas, it was destructive enough to my enjoyment that I felt obliged to express my discontent. I'm still baffled as to how every car in the game controlled better than the race car brought in to do the high-stakes citywide race. It makes no sense. Every battle encounter in Mafia: The Old Country felt the same. Stealth your way to the objective. Fight all the guys you snuck past with cover-based gunplay. Get to the boss and have a knife fight. At first, the knife fighting was fun and I thought, oh wow, a knife fighting system. I wonder how this evolves after. No, it doesn't. It doesn't get any more complex. The knife fighting is simplistic and failing one is just a result of impatience. The gunplay was serviceable, but had that Uncharted floaty feel and a kind of annoying aim mechanic that requires players to stay out of cover and aim down sights as they await an accurate shot. What I believe to be an attempt to slow down what would be an otherwise ridiculously easy and short game. Mafia: The Old Country is an enjoyable AA game that tells an interesting old-world mobster tale filled with likable and loathsome characters that suffers due to its brevity, repetitiveness, and its technical issues. It is a less expensive game that doesn't offer value, and could have done well with another 5 to 6 hours of gameplay to help make the good story great. Mafia: The Old Country is a game I would recommend for those who enjoy classic mobster movies, but not for those who are interested in an open-world GTA-like experience. Leaving Mafia: The Old Country with a respectable score of 7.75. If you enjoyed anything you saw here or just want to help out the channel, a like or a subscribe is always appreciated. The goal in this channel is to have enough average views and subscribers to start receiving review copies of games. When that starts happening, for every review code I get, a copy of that game will be given away to a lucky viewer. Just a reminder, I stream most weekdays starting around 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Stop by and watch the pre-review gameplay. Tell me what I'm doing wrong, ask questions, whatever floats your boat. I'd love to see you there. Lastly, check out The Odd Gamers, a content creators group I co-founded with Jay from Red Room 303. We have an interesting mix of creators and streamers, all playing different games, each with their own unique personalities. Visit the site, view the links, join the Discord. We don't bite, except for Domingue Vile, that is. Until next time, I am GreyDay. I play games. This is